People all over the democratic world complain how bad leaders they have. However, it was the people who voted for them. How can that be? I tell you why, and I tell you how we can fix it. Firstly, people should not just complain and blame this other. We should give alternatives where we have the money to do it. Otherwise, things will just get worse. And then the first thoughts that people have are just feelings. The second thoughts are about logic and experience, and this is what we need. In elections, there are candidates who talk nice things, promise everything for everyone, and they get lots of votes. However, there is a minority who thinks with logic and experience, and they are against this. And that's something really good, a start of something really good. Politics is about agreements, and the idea should be that a minority that is right will work its way all the way to the majority. It's a long road, but well worth it. Who is the most powerful person in politics? That's you. You are the most powerful person. Nobody has more votes than you. And keep that in mind. Politics should always have the freedom of opinion, but there should not be a freedom to threat with violence, because that restricts the freedom of opinion. And there should not be a freedom of insulting how people look or how they behave in personal life. Because if you insult an opponent, he will only try harder. If you insult a friend, you will lose a friend. Important is what the politicians do, not how they look. There are also many politicians who only ask questions but don't answer any themselves. That's equal to going into a boxing ring and thinking that only this person has the right to punch the opponent, and the opponent does not have the right to punch at all. There is a danger of self-interest, especially when there are only a few people involved. If there are over 1,000, then it's not about self-interest anymore, it's about common good. And when there is a bad leadership, it's not the fault of the bad leaders, but it's the fault of the people who don't remove it. The more people involved, the easier it is to get rid of the bad leaders. In elections, it's important that we always vote for the best candidate. It doesn't matter at all does the candidate win or lose. After the election, if you voted for the winner or the loser, it doesn't change your life at all. But if you vote for the best candidate, then it improves the world. The best candidate is the one who is most capable of advancing good things. In democracy, there should never be a situation where one vote is decisive. That's part of dictatorship, where one vote can decide things. Now, in democracy, when we make agreements, we do them in a group. And we are already 6 billion people. If we negotiate as individuals, everything takes forever. Therefore, we must choose representatives, and they should be good negotiators. If you think all candidates are bad, then you know who is a good candidate and what is a good candidate. and you should be a candidate yourself. There are people who want to show a good example, but that does not change much. Effective laws do. And therefore we need to make good rules. If we elect a bad leader, then this leader is in power for 4 years. Unlike in business, if you sell bad hamburgers, you are out of business tomorrow. But in politics it takes 4 years. So take a good thought about who you are voting for. We also just can't vote and wait, because it's always the individual who knows best what's best for the individual. Individual can take care of itself best. And the elections and politics are only about agreements. They can help us to help ourselves. But the work must always be done by the individual. We want a small government. We want low taxes. And every time taxes are raised, we need to ask what for. There are good reasons, but if the only reason is to make a bigger government, such taxes should not exist. And there should also be a global maximum tax, 49%. If the government is not able to do anything with 49% taxes, it's not going to do anything good with any higher taxes. And besides, if the government raises over 50% taxes, it's basically owning the individual, and that's wrong. We know as a society what we should do, but as individuals we fail. Let me give you an example. We know that we have fished most fishes from the seas, and we know that we must make restrictions or there will be no longer fish. However, when we ask this from the fishing industry, it's not going to give up their jobs. When we ask shops and restaurants, they are not going to give their profits. So, we need to change our way of thinking. We need plans and strategies, not just for a day or a week, but for a decade and for the next 50 years. This is how we can accomplish good things. We can remove cancer, we can end wars, we can inhabit planet Mars, and humanity will prevail. That's how good plans work. And that's what we can do. I want to say something about referendums. If there is a referendum against something, it should have at least 90% of the votes to take power. Because if 51% against something is enough, then everything is against the law and there is no police to enforce it. You don't need to change the whole world. You just improve it a little and you are already a winner. The question is, do we want it? I do.